Alright, you guys. So this is a special episode of Coffee with Kensou. I got a good friend of mine here, Stealthy Guy, and the way this came to be is, we've had talks about acceptance in fighting games and acknowledgement in fighting games, but the real thing here was Stealth came to me and was like, "Hey, I have a better idea. Maybe you want to think about this. You want to put that out there for the people here?"
Yeah, so nice to meet you all. I'm Stealth. I am well known in Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and I also played Marvel 3. I play a lot of fighting games. So if you're a Texas player, you've probably heard of me at some point in time. So it's nice to meet you all. So I came to Kensou with this idea, or rather this question, based on one of his streams about acceptance in fighting games. It was about when Kensou was talking about how Chipp players are complacent with kind of accepting that he sucks. They think that he sucks when when he has tools. It's just a matter of figuring it out.
Yep.
So yeah. So that was part of the inspiration for this. And also another thing that made me think about it was a real life situation where I was thinking I just have to accept that this person is like this and that he's not going to change. But then I thought about it, I was like, but I don't agree with it though. So is that really acceptance or is that rather acknowledgement? So that's where truckloads of gray areas come in. So I figured I would ask Kensou to do a discussion so that way we can kind of like break this down and try to get a better direction for this.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll admit, you guys, my intro was kind of bad for him, but he fixed it and tell you everything about him. And trust me when I say that, like, really quickly, I'm gonna butter him up here very quickly for you guys. And I know, he's gonna chuckle at this, but still, I believe he's one of our brightest minds out here in Texas, and I've seen him grow as a player from Dragon Ball, Marvel Infinite, and this guy's a complete monster. Trust me. I've had the pleasure of playing him in tournament, and he is a monster. So yeah, look out for him in future games, and especially Guilty Gear Strive. Now,
I can't wait to play Anji.
Now, with that being said, so we took it from acceptance to acknowledgement. Acknowledging things that are like problems in fighting games, and like, yeah, it did stem from that portion. So yeah, I guess the easiest way to just kind of go with this is just, it is very difficult for a lot of people to accept. I guess we could say maybe accept and acknowledge. Maybe it's kind of it's compound. Yeah, so like
likely.
A lot of people find it very difficult to accept and acknowledge that, like, your character may not have certain tools, or a matchup might not be in your favor. But like, even though it could be hard, I think you have to acknowledge that it's difficult for you. So in a matchup sense, it might be difficult for you, but like, while it may be hard now, it doesn't mean it's going to stay difficult forever. Meta changes, people figure out different things. Characters may have different tools, or like the character that you're playing, maybe you're not thinking about using that tool in a specific way that could probably help out in the matchup. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
And there's so many avenues for it. You want to take the reins on this one here, Stealthy?
So like you said with the matchups, like I've heard people say that Chipp versus Potemkin is really bad for Chipp because of how low his life is, and I'm just thinking, like, I don't think it's necessary. I don't think you have to accept that. Like I said, this is where the gray area comes in, where you have to accept things that you can't necessarily change directly, but acknowledge things that you can change.
Yeah.
Where like you have to accept that you have very low life, so you can't really take risks against pot players like that. But you have to acknowledge that you can easily play around that problem by properly using your tools and making sure you're not in a position to get command grabbed or get one touched by pot, if that makes any sense.
Oh no, it makes perfect sense. And it's something, I guess, pushing into like the Chipp versus pot matchup. Yeah, like I said this for years, a lot of people who do pick up Chipp kind of like new, and they're like, this is really bad, or they see on Twitter, he gets one touch, and they're like, oh god, this is so unfair. It's like,
yeah,
I mean, when you think about it, Chipp is blessed with all the options, and like, it's up to you to figure out how to use all those tools, and that's a whole other topic in itself with problem solving, right? Yes. But like, it's not difficult if you're able to problem solve, and you have to, again, acknowledge that I don't have this, right?
Yes, exactly.
And how do I play around this despite not having that, or whatever?
Yes, exactly.
So it is true. Like it's not necessarily a bad matchup in my honest opinion. A lot of the games, it's been in Chipp's favor for quite some time. It seems like it's not in his favor because you get hit one time or you hit twice and you like die. Especially now in Strive where like damage is like through the freaking roof. So
through the roof.
Yeah. So, but acknowledgement comes in other forms too, right, guys? So like regarding like, like one that gets kicked around a lot in FGC, well, we'll use a tournament, for example, right? Like, said player wins a tournament, and a lot of certain people would be like, oh, he's lucky this person was there. Well, I mean, you can only beat who's in front of you, right? So you have to acknowledge, that, hey, whoever was there, that's only people that you can beat. It's not their, it's not their fault that said player or said group of players or said top player in particular could not show up or you got away from said matchup. Like, there's nothing you can do about bracketing. There's nothing. It's just it is what it is.
Yes,
you have to acknowledge that.
Yeah, may I give an example of that?
Absolutely.
So in Marvel Infinite, back in the early days of it, like I want to say 2018 timeframe, back when Dual Kevin was winning most of the tournaments, but whenever I went to a tournament, usually he wasn't there. There were some people who would say that, oh, you only won because Dual Kevin wasn't there, but then I would say, well, here's the thing, like, it's not my fault that he didn't show up. If he didn't show up, then it is what it is.
It is what it is. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, it is what it is. And then even then, I told people, I'm like, all the times I played Kevin, like I was ahead in sets back in 2018, where Kevin and I would play, it would generally go even. But I think the tournament sets we played, I want to say like I was up like 4-2 or 4-3 on him. I'm not too sure. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, but that's an example where like if someone doesn't show up to a tournament, then like that's not your problem.
That's not your problem. It's really not. Yeah, and like that's it's crazy. Like I'm thinking about it now, and it's like you think about how people don't like to accept. So now here's the other part of it, like kind of like accepting things that like why is this way or why is this that way? And trust me, we all get into that mode where it's like, why does this character have this dumb thing, or why is it that we can't? So we have to accept sometimes that like a character is just broken.
Like Zero, like the amount of complaints I hear about Zero and Marvel Infinite, which
I would imagine,
which is warranted, because like Zero, he's definitely super broken. Like I'm not even gonna try to front on that. He's top 3 for a reason. Like he has every tool in the book. Like he has very impressive offense, very good keep away. Like, and I'm sure there are some characters in because I'm not a Guilty Gear person. Those would be the first Guilty Gear I played. I'm sure there are characters in Guilty Gear where like no matter what, those characters are gonna be like really good. Like I think Johnny's one of them.
Yeah.
Or Venom.
I would say they both have had their ups and downs. But if you want to talk about Revelator in particular, I mean, we can always look at Elfelt. We already know.
Oh yeah, about that character.
Elfelt is the Zero of the Revelator series, or the Expert series for that matter. But yeah, it's
about that character.
It is definitely difficult, to like accept that certain things are just silly, and you have to. And again, and it goes back to the acknowledgement. Going back to what we said initially, you got to find out ways to deal with that. And I guess when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, we as people always have to acknowledge, like,
yes,
if it's like, how they have a thing where it's like the sooner you accept, like the better off you'll be.
Yes,
I feel like it's one of those situations, and I guess with acceptance comes acknowledgement. But how do you feel, or actually, how do you feel about when people don't acknowledge Zero when you're playing Marvel in particular? Like what is your advice to those people? Like what do you tell people whenever like Zero's nonsensical? Yeah. And you try to like what's your method of breaking it down to try to help people,
Oh boy, so where do I start with this? Because I definitely have my fair share of trying to assist, but some people weren't trying to listen because they mental block themselves, which keeps them from acknowledging or accepting. But like what I try to tell people, with example, Pizza Cutter, or his jump heavy punch. His jump heavy punch is 13 frames, and there are 4 jump frames in the game. So I tell people that you can challenge Pizza Cutter if you have a faster button, or a button with a bigger hitbox, or something that can hit his hurt box. because it's not like Marvel 3 where Zero had no hurt box on Pizza Cutter whatsoever. Like in Infinite, he has a hurt box all around Pizza Cutter, so you can hit it. Like I tell people like, hey, if he's trying to stagger Pizza Cutter, like that's not real. You can challenge it. And then of course I get met with, no, Nico, that's not true because I try to hit you for it and I get stuff for it. I'm like, well, here's the thing though, you're not factoring in how the player will use it. Like I'm talking about specifically the character, because that's one thing I've noticed with certain people in general where they want catch-all answers for a problem. Like they want to, like they think like for example, if I'm a Chipp player and I ask you, hey, I'm struggling against Potemkin, I'm struggling against I think 5P it is, which is basically Yumi 5A from what I've heard. I'm like, okay, I'm struggling against this button, what can I do against it? And you say, oh, well, you can do this, you can do that. And I'm like, well, but here's the thing though, that doesn't work against this person using it because he uses it in a specific way. And you're like, well, that I'm telling you what to do against the character. I can't necessarily tell you what you can do against the player.
Just the player.
I can't give you like a foolproof answer against the player.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, like and some people get that confused, get that mixed up because that's one thing I notice when people when people ask me for Zero things or say, hey, I can't do this against Zero. I'm like, you can do this, you can do that, but then they say, hey, I get stuff when I try that, and I'm like, well, that's because I'm doing it differently because how I approach fighting games is whenever I lap something, I lap how my opponent can answer it.
Of course.
So that's why I'm like, okay, like if they're checking me for Pizza Cutter, I'll do it with a different speed. Or if I'm or let me think, what other games that if in DBFZ, I'm like, okay, if I'm doing a instant air dash ML and I see that they're mashing 2H every single time, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna safe jump it instead. So people want some people want catch-all answers, and that's just not possible because that's where you said like neutral is too dynamic. Like things are too dynamic.
It's way too dynamic. Like there's if neutral was always exactly how it played out in our head, then we'd all be godlike, right? But
yeah, exactly. Like, and I told people, I'm like, this is where I think you would have to use acceptance. I'm like, you have to accept that not everything's gonna go as planned, but just because it doesn't go as planned doesn't mean you should dismiss it.
Right. True. Very, very true. Yeah. I guess see again back to acceptance and acknowledgement, right? So now you can acknowledge. Now I accept that this is a thing right here, and now you have to acknowledge a way to beat it. You know, you have to find. And as you can see, guys, for you guys watching this, you see that like everything kind of comes back full circle in regards to like now you have to think about how to do this or how to beat that, because like Stel said, like there is no like catch-all answer. Like neutral is too dynamic. Some characters have a lot of options that can be very difficult for you in fighting games to like deal with, but you have to think of a way. You know, like I said earlier, a critical thing is a whole nother skill in itself that does get overlooked, but like I said before, that's a whole nother video topic. But so then acknowledgement in regards to accepting the advice.
Yes. Okay. There we go.
That part. Oh man.
Yeah. This is the important. Yeah. So yeah, that was what I was alluding to, like acceptance in terms of acknowledging the advice itself.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh, like some of the advice I have, I'm not saying like I'm not gonna say that I'm a prophet. Like sometimes I am wrong about things, and this is where I have acceptance where I'm like I'm not perfect. Like there are gonna be things I'm gonna do wrong. There are gonna be things I have weaknesses in. So like if I see that oh wait this wasn't right, I will tell people like, oh yeah, actually disregard what I just said. This works like this instead.
Right. Hey guys, like let me tell you right now. Acknowledging something that your peer is telling you is very important, right? So if you're playing a match with your partner or maybe someone new or someone kind of new in your group or whatever, you know, if they're giving you advice about something, it's your goal to listen to it and accept what you want and acknowledge what you want. Not everything is going to be 100%. Again, going back to no 100% catch-all answers, right?
Yes.
But it's up to you to decipher and filter out what you think is important and what you want to acknowledge, you know, to push yourself forward, because we're as you know, Nico said, we're not all perfect. We do make mistakes when we're playing. Sometimes our frame traps aren't perfect. Sometimes our jump ins aren't perfect. Our combos will, you know, they can get dropped. There's like so many different things, right? So when
Yes.
someone's helping you out, sometimes it's good to just listen. I do understand on the other front, there are some people who can be toxic and whatnot. So I understand that. But
And let me give you an example. I'm not going to name names, of course, but
that's fine.
there was an instance where, and this was back when I will say like my defensive habits were really weak, were really bad. Like I would have like Marvel 3 habits of up backing against up backing pressure, and in games like BB Tag or Marvel Infinite that will get you killed. Or even
definitely.
Guilty Gear, I'm sure, because up back against pot, you're gonna get blown up. But someone wouldn't articulate he wasn't articulating what it was he was saying. He was just saying, Nico, you don't block, just block more. And I'm like, that doesn't really, like, I even told him this, and
the generalized statement.
Yeah. Like, I'm like, that doesn't really tell me much. And then he was getting upset with me because I kept doing stuff that was hitting me, and like there are too many factors to come into play, because whenever it comes down to casuals, I'm a trial and error person. I'll trial and error all day because that's how I learn.
Right.
Like I believe in application. I believe in application and practicality over anything else. That's why I'm not a combos person. Like granted, I like my combos. Like I'll look into combos whenever I can because Marvel 3 was all about combos, and so was Devil May Cry series. Like I love my combos in that game too.
Right.
Like he wasn't articulating what it was he was saying, because there are just some people who are not good at giving advice. Let's just put that out there. Like there's some people that are not good at giving advice. Like and this is where I'm a firm believer of, whenever it comes down to giving advice, it's better to see things from their perspective of their gameplay and their style and expand on that, as opposed to trying to advise them how to play differently altogether. Like if someone's very highly offensive, like myself, and it's a signature of their playstyle, deviating from that is very hard, if not impossible. So that's why, like I said, it's better to see it from that perspective and expand on that. So instead of just saying just block, like more like use like have you ever, you know about Time Crisis, right? Yeah, so like, like wait, action, right? Yeah, wait, action. Okay, so like when I'm on the receiving end of something, I'm like, that's where you think wait, and then action, go for it. Like wait, like think of wait as defense, but action as go for it.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what I would tell people to expand on their offense if they're really highly offensive. Like recognize when it's not your turn. Yeah, like recognize when it's not your turn and adjust accordingly, as opposed to just block. I'm like, and that's another thing that's inherently wrong with, like, because I legit just hate that when someone says just block.
Just
like,
insert something.
Just
insert.
Just do X thing.
X thing. Yes.
I'm like that doesn't.
It doesn't help.
That doesn't tell me anything, because I'm like, okay, so just block during a frame trap, just block when you're in an advantage, just block when just block on wake up, just block when what else? Yeah, block on wake up, like just block instead of trying to up back, don't up back, or block when you know you're about to get mixed, or just block pressure that is not going to open you up, and then wait for your chance to escape, etc., etc. Like the list is endless. Like that's where that's where like receiving advice from certain, and that's where you also have to take into account the atmosphere, like because I don't believe in giving unsolicited advice. That's first off, and second, when I see that someone is extremely like irritated because they're getting beaten really badly, like I can tell, like because that's where having high emotional intelligence comes in. You have to. That's where I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna try to give him advice or anything of that nature. I'll only do it if he asks. Because if someone's irritable, like if their psychology is preventing them from taking any type of outside messages that are objective and realistic, as opposed to telling them what they want to hear. Like when someone's irritated, when they're getting beaten really badly in a set, they just want to hear what they want to hear, as opposed to like taking like actual advice that will help them. So that barrier right there could interfere with someone's acceptance or acknowledgement of something that could help them improve, or something that's really important to them.
And that's just it. By the way, if you have a drink, feel free to sip on it.
Yeah. I just have this water here because I don't drink coffee.
It's okay. Drinks with Kensou. Coffee or drinks matters not. But I agree with that, and it's just something for you guys here, watching this, is you could see that like sometimes people's temperament doesn't really allow for them to acknowledge and accept information. That's why when you're playing, like, you gotta be objective. You gotta do your best to be like, okay, maybe they're onto something here. Maybe I could do something better. and it goes back into filtering in and out, like what you think is important. Because I'll tell you, just like Stealth just said, like I have heard this countless times. Oh, you play Chipp, just run. Okay, just run away is just it is the most infuriating.
I'm like, just
advice.
Run and do what? Just run and do what? Like, okay, just running. Like, is running gonna win me the match? Is running gonna get me the hit against Pi? Like run and do what? Or against Kai? Because I heard I mean, you obviously know more about this than I do. Like, because I played Kai in the beta. Like, I went from Faust to Kai because, like, for the purpose of learning the game, I feel like Kai is better. Yeah. And I don't think like Faust is gonna play the same as Anji. I mean, I don't know, but like, I don't think they're gonna play the same.
Oh, they're very
different. So, but like, people told me like, oh, Chipp loses really. It's like some people who play Chipp, they're like, oh, Chipp loses really badly to Kai because his pokes are that good. And when someone says, oh, and then they would just like, just don't get hit by 5H or something like that, and you're like, that doesn't tell me anything.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything.
Like, okay, don't get hit and do what? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, just don't get hit. It's not gonna win me the match. It's not gonna win me the match. And that's another thing. Like, just block. I'm like, blocking's not gonna win me the match. I'm sorry, that's just impossible.
I'm laughing, you guys, because all this stuff is very true, and you hear this a lot. You hear this a lot in fighting games. You hear this a lot in fighting games. And it's really it just doesn't work that way. Like,
no.
When you're telling, and he's not wrong either, like when you're telling an offensive player just block, it's like, what should I be looking for? You know, try to be more deliberate in what you're trying to convey, you know? And it's for people who are trying to like, you definitely want to articulate what it is you want your training partner or opponent to do better to help you improve, you know? Because if you're not, then it just goes right over their head. You know, it doesn't offer any value, you know? And that's one of the things, right? Like when you're playing against someone in a long set who's very good, you know, you want to try to get that information out of them so you can improve.
Yes.
And you gotta hope and pray you're not hearing just insert thing. Yes. But if it's just insert thing, then do your best to tell them, hey, can you expand on that? Can you elaborate? Try your best to get stuff out of them. It is true, not everyone's good at explaining things, but you gotta try to siphon it the best that you can. And if you can't get it, then that's up to you to, you know, go back and look at the matches yourself and try to fix up what you were doing wrong. So another part of accept that people will not give you good advice. Acknowledge that their advice could be bad.
And let me give you another example. This was in Street Fighter 5 at Stan Japan, where I lost to Happy Medicine, really good Bison player, because I was losing to Bison, Stan Fierce, and Psycho X, and then I'm like, Psycho X is the bane of my existence in this matchup. And then someone said, just whiff punish, and I'm like, that. If only it was as simple as that. It's not simple as that.
I wish it was as simple as whiff punish.
Because I even told him, I'm like, dude, if it was as simple as that, I would not lose to any Bison player ever. Like, it's not as simple as that. I'm sorry, it's just not.
It's not. And yeah, for you guys out there that are watching this and you're giving people advice, just do that. Please please expand on it to the best of your ability.
Or at least make it as specific as possible. At the very least, make it as just do this when he does this because this. Yeah. Like that's better than just do this and leave it at that.
I would agree. That is a way better use of what you want to say, or rather what you should say. So keep that in mind for those of you guys out there that are just giving this just thing. Acknowledge that you could be wrong. Acknowledge that you need to make this better. So you guys see, like in fighting games, this just goes on and on and on, you know, or, you know, and I guess acknowledgement. Now I want to talk about acknowledgement and acceptance in terms of decision making, because this one's a really tough one, because you get a lot of people who always say, man, if I did this, I would have won. It's like sometimes you get, and don't get me wrong, it happens to a lot of us, you know. It happens
to me too, because with me, I don't have that mindset of this guy only wins because he played this character, or like I'll admit I get like that in card games, because I'm just like, dude, this deck takes literally no skill to play.
RNG.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's where I'm just like, I mean, RNG just isn't on my side. The dude high rolled. Well, I didn't open up anything good. It's just be what it be. But like usually like because you and I both being marketing majors, we both know what SWOT analysis is. So whenever I lose as a result of my mistake, I internalize it as opposed to, oh my god, my opponent played like an idiot, or oh he really wanted this character. It's my fault that. Now I will say I'm like, this dude just keeps mashing, or like, he really did that right there. But then I step back, I'm like, at the end of the day, I got popped by it, so that says more about me than my opponent.
Right.
And then that's where I'll be like, all right, so I'm like, okay, I got you next time. Like I know what to do next time. I'm just going to acknowledge that you're always going to do this in this situation, and just don't change up my strategy. Like just keep doing it until you show me that you have the capacity to adapt.
Yep. Now that is a part of, you know, the decision making and like information gathering when you're playing, guys. So like, if you get hit in a match, let's say you're playing a tournament match, if you get hit by something that seems off, we won't call it random for the sake of like surprising your opponent is important in tournament. So let's just keep that honest.
Yes.
So if you get hit by something surprise, you have to take that. You have to acknowledge that you got hit by that, and that may have cost you the game. Take the time. So let's say you lost the game. You want to take the time out to, okay, I got hit by this. Don't tilt, you know, because tilting is really terrible in tournament.
Yes.
You know, so you have to acknowledge he hit you with that, accept that you just lost.
Because that's out of your control.
Yeah.
Like you can't turn back time. That's out of your control.
It's out of your control. So take the time, press the button again, go back in knowing that is a possibility, you know, when the chips are down. Like now you have information, you know, and you know it works in a positive way too, right? So
yes,
it works because like you're training your mindset. The second that when you get really good at this changes your whole play style. It changes a lot of your decision making, and it makes you more comfortable in what you want to do when you're playing, right? And this is something that, I'll be honest, I think that and I always name these two, man. Daigo and Tokido are the best at acknowledging risk reward.
That's for sure, especially Daigo. Like because here's another thing, and that's where you have US players where like if it was a US player doing that, like doing like the Ume Shoryu or Ume Flash game, they'd be like, oh my gosh, this dude is so scrubby. So random. Yeah, so random, so scrubby. But then Daigo himself does like, oh my god, that was the best read ever. And then that's where acknowledge and acceptance. Like I feel like to not hinder it, like remove the concept of brands and names, but without disregarding the person's skill level.
Well said. Well said.
So like for example, like in Guilty Gear, like if I ever have to, let's say Stealth versus Zomito on this app, like I'm not gonna be like, oh my gosh, Zomito, I'm getting ready to go into lose rec. I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna be like, okay, my opponent's Zomito, he's really good. Like be ready for anything.
Yeah. Oh man, this is, oh man, now when we start talking about tournament and acknowledgement, oh man, this is one of the biggest ones. Because this is where your mental game has to be really, really good. Because not only are you waiting for your match one, that is tiring. If you're playing multiple games, that is also tiring. And then winning and losing in different games, that can mess with your mental when you're playing in the game that you really care about the most. So let's say you're playing at Evo, for example, or let's say you're just playing at Evo. You know, you enter Dragon Ball, you enter BB Tag, and you main Sam Show or something like that, or you main MK or whatever. And like you lose in the first two games, and it like kind of frustrates you because you know you're good at those games and you know you could have got out of pools, but your main game is Sam Show. Like you can't let those losses in those games mess with you when you go play the game you really care about. No, absolutely not. And that is partly why I would always suggest people to, if you're going to play fighting games, I'm just going to throw this one out here. This isn't really part of accepting. Maybe it is, but if you're going to play competitively, try to go past 3 games. 3 games that's a lot of studying.
I mean, well, for me, I'll tell you a story. I'm definitely guilty of this at Evo 2018, where, how many games did I enter? Let me think. Okay, I entered Dragon Ball. I entered DBFZ. I entered Street Fighter. You guys said Dragon Ball, DBFZ. Yeah. So Dragon Ball, BB Tag.
Dragon Ball, BB Tag. And Street Fighter.
Did I enter KOF?
Oh god.
Then I entered Marvel Infinite.
That's 5.
I think. Yeah. What was that? All the games I entered? I was. Yeah. DBFZ, Street Fighter, MVCI, BB. Yeah. KOF. Yeah. I think that's it. 5 games. Yeah.
5 games.
And I made it out of pools in all 5 games. Like I made it out of pools in all 5 because 4 of them in winners, 1 in losers. Like I made it out in KOF 14 in losers. Losing to the person who won the tournament, ZJZ. And let me tell you a story about that match where that was back when like Nash was super broken. She's
Oh
still really
man.
good, but like yeah, like that's where like when I lost the way I did against ZGZ, where I was winning the match, but then he one touched me with Nash, and I was like, dude, this is a hard pill for me to swallow. Is this really how it felt like? I was like, did I really just? I was like, I lost like this? Sheesh, is this what it feels like? I was like, that's what it feels like. I was like, all right, cool, man.
Hey man, you got it, dude. Hey, cause
Yeah.
wow.
But like, yeah, I made it out in the other 4 games in winners. And then, that was actually more taxing than I thought it was gonna be. Like, I mean, granted, like I wasn't like tired, but then I was like, there are gonna be things that are gonna be, there are certain stimuli that's gonna be out of my control. Like I just, that's where I'm just like, I have to accept that. Like, my mind is going to subconsciously divert energy to multiple things if I'm doing it all at the same time.
Yep.
That's why I tell people whenever it comes down to like processing things, just take it one step at a time instead of trying to look at it on a giant scale. Like so that way you don't get intimidated by learning a fighting game or learning a character nearly as much. So like because like for myself, like this will be the first Guilty Gear game I ever played. I'm not gonna like look at every single top player video, be like, oh my gosh, this is so intimidating, I don't have a chance. I'm gonna be like, okay, just take it one step at a time. I'll get to that point. Like I'll get to that point. I just have to be patient. I have to take my time.
Acknowledgement, people.
And this is where yeah, exactly. Yeah, like I'm gonna take my time. And then and this is advice I have where like don't compare your journey to someone else's journey because I will say me learning Guilty Gear, like it's hard and I see like people next to me learning it faster than I am. Like I will say it's hard to not feel discouraged by that, but that's their pace. Everybody is different. Like just take your time. You'll get to where you need to be.
Acknowledge that you will take time.
Acknowledge that you'll take time. Yeah, because that's something that you have control over.
Yes. So as you can see, you guys, we've covered so many different bases, and I know we kind of jumped around here, but it's such a broad spectrum when it comes to this topic. And again, I'm really glad that Stealth hit me up about acceptance, because I do think acceptance and acknowledgement, because I think that they definitely go hand in hand. So I guess coming back to tournament, just accept that you're only going to be able to play 3 competitively.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like it's ambitious, yes, but it's there's only so much that you can do. And I'm not saying and don't let that discourage you either. Like don't let that discourage your ability to be able to play multiple games.
Yeah, because the thing about it is, you can play multiple games. You just don't have to compete at them.
Yeah, exactly. Like for me, like in after Evo, like I went super casual status in Dragon Ball and BB Tag. Like I went super casual status. Granted, I don't really play BB Tag anymore. Like I haven't played that game in a long time.
Don't worry, that makes 2 of us.
Yeah, like I want to say I played Dragon. The last time I want to say I played Dragon Ball more recently than BB Tag. Like in Dragon Ball, like it's a fun game, and that's another thing. Like I came to terms with, like I accepted where I'm like I should just accept that this is not for me competitively. But like I'll be like casually and at the local or even regional level, it's a blast to play. But for super high competitive, I'm like, I'm sorry, this is not for me. The tilt is too real. The stress and the tilt is too real. I'm sorry.
That is, I guess that's another part we could touch base on. Sometimes these games will try you, man. Like Dragon Ball, sometimes you die to that super dash.
Yes.
That cross-up super dash.
Cross-up, especially online, where I'm just like, bro, I'm too Hing on reaction. Oh wait, frame delay.
Yeah.
I was like, I see that super dash coming. I'm trying to 2H it. Oh wait, frame delay.
Oh man, I got so many stories for that. But I guess when there's, like I said, it comes in so many forms. But tournament acknowledgement, like, oh man. So we talked about acknowledging like who you can only beat who's in front of you. We talked about accepting how you lose and accepting how you can win again. Then the next part also is to acknowledge where you are, and like after the tournament, acknowledge where you are.
Yes.
And even though sometimes that might be a hard pill to swallow, because like let's say you've been training your ass off, there's so many people that go 0-2. Listen, I'm gonna be that guy, and I'm gonna say this: someone has to go 0-2. You just gotta try to not. You just have to try to not be that guy.
It's just the nature of the beast. Like it's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah. So sometimes it sucks. You psych yourself up. You're ready to go. You go 0-2, and you're like, but I've been training. Sometimes brackets happen. Controller malfunction. People not desyncing controllers. There's so many things out of your control in that regard. But like, one thing you do have control over is how you feel when it's all said and done. And I'll tell you from experience, like it's been a very, very, and I mean very long time where I've ever went 0-2 in a tournament. I think it was Combo Breaker, not Combo Breaker, CEO 2019 for MK. I went 0-2, and I can't front. I was a very, very, very irritated person when it was all said and done. And I took maybe a good 10, 15, 20 minutes. All right, let's go play casuals because I need to see what I'm missing out on. Obviously, if I went 0-2 here, there's something that I'm missing in my game. So like, instead of letting like that get me down, I seek top players to whoever would play me. Not sit there and be like, hey, you want to play? Let's play. It didn't matter if that dude had a win streak or not. I just want to play different people, get different play styles, and understand how things work from other regions, because that's another thing, right? When you're traveling for tournaments in particular. Whenever COVID's all over with and we get back to the norm, you're gonna see a slew of different playstyles, and sometimes you have to be prepared for the unknown. So you have to acknowledge and accept that like you can get quote unquote randomed out, you can get outplayed. Like there's a slew of things that can happen, and there's you can control the pace of the game, but you have to try to gain that control and try not to lose, I guess. Yeah. But again. If all else fails and you do happen to lose, acknowledge it, but do your best to, once it's all said and done, recollect yourself and go play casuals as much as you can, because I will tell you guys straight up and down, Combo Breaker as an offline event is one of the best because it allows you to play mad casuals 24 hours a day. And like the level up is real. You'll catch someone down in the playing area at like 4 a.m. like, hey dude, let's get it. And I'm just like, let's go, like, or people playing in the rooms the whole night. Like, you want to make the most of your opportunities whenever you get a chance to, go out of state. And naturally, I suggest Combo Breaker. Please come to Texas Showdown. We have that too. Yeah, it's not 24 hours, but they're working on it. But that's a different story. Anyway, the bottom line is you want to acknowledge that you lost, accept that happened, and now it's time to go acknowledge that you need to improve now. Don't sulk. Get in there and improve. This is a new chance to make new friends, learn new tech, and get maybe some new training partners offline or online, because you might live in the same area as they do, and you might get to play them offline, or they live in a different region and you can just play them online, pass off your PSN, your Steam or whatever, and like, now you're networking, now you're able to get better even more. You know what I mean? So
yes, like don't stop where you lose. Rather where you lose, use that as a starting point. Yeah. It's a new starting point, if that makes any sense.
Oh yeah, it's like, trust me guys, like, as someone who's been playing for a very long time, I've had to reinvent myself as a player countless times. And it sounds kind of crazy, right? But I had to acknowledge that, like, in a lot of ways, maybe some of what I was doing doesn't work anymore. Or maybe that meta of play is not really what's sustainable in the long run. So I had to readjust. Like, and trust me, coming from a lot of the old school games, CVS 2, Marvel 2, Guilty Gear, older Guilty Gear, Third Strike, like the way those games were played back then in comparison to now are different, and even those games have evolved in terms of strategy and how people play them now. So like, I had to acknowledge that with the way new fighting games work, I have to adjust to these if I want to stay competitive. Like, resting on the laurels of yesteryear doesn't do anybody any good, No. So you have to adapt.
Yes, and this is where like another touching point on acceptance and acknowledgement, where like some OGs, because I believe that's what we all call them, some OGs are like stuck in yesteryear, and they don't want to accept that the modern games are how they are now. Like, this is not like super old school games where they didn't have patches, they didn't have the mindsets back then that they do now, etc. Like you see this from all the installments of new games all the time, from like Third Strike to Street Fighter 4 to Street Fighter 5, from Guilty Gear Rev to Rev 2 and to Strive, etc., etc. Like the list is endless. Like Marvel 2 to Marvel 3 or Marvel 3 to Infinite. Like the list goes on. So like it's mainly like accepting that like not everything's gonna stay the same.
Oh yeah.
You have to accept that not like because that is something that's out of your control. Like you have to accept that not everything's gonna stay the same. But what you and that's where like acknowledgement and acceptance becomes compound, where like you accept that it's not going to be that way and you acknowledge it as such, which allows you to change your mindset and readjust if you want to stay competitive.
Yep. And I will tell you guys, as someone who's come from the old school, I'm like new school, old school by old school quote unquote standards.
Yeah.
You know, like it was, you know, adapting to those games, like those games were hard, and I don't think that the newer fighting games are like it's easier to an extent, and I've talked about this a lot. I won't make this video about this, but you know, the newer fighting games, they are the way they are for reasons. And you know, just because you were a god in like, you know, old game, it doesn't mean you're gonna be a god in the next game.
No.
You know, and I think that's another part of acceptance and acknowledgement. I think I kind of want to touch base on is like, just because you were godlike in the previous installment of the game. I take, for example, people who were godlike in Guilty Gear Revelator, you know, 2 coming in the Strive. You know, there's a lot of complaints because it doesn't play like this or that or the other, but you have to accept and acknowledge that this is how it is now. Yes. You know, and just because you were good previously, like even now, right, I will still always feel myself and say I am the best Chipp in the US, and I still feel that way. But I have to prove that, and I have to pull that same, even though that's part of my driving force, right? I have the right to feel that way, right? But I can pull that into Strive and adapt to Strive. You know, it's not like I'm not worried about like what he had previously versus what he has now. So, and that comes with accepting and acknowledging, guys. See?
Yes.
So in order to push yourself, you have to know that even though I was great in this one, I have to adjust to this game now. This is what's hot, because fortunately, fighting games are not like, you know, Call of Duty, and even then those get updates, but like I don't know, they're not like some of the other esports games, say like League of Legends or something like that. Those games have kind of stand like the test of time, but they're still like the same game. They update within the game, and some things change and the meta changes, stuff like that. This is like a whole new fresh installment. It's not like, all right, I'm playing, and even then I guess League of Legends could be kind of seen in the same fashion, right? But it's still at that point it's still the same game, more or less. Like how you play the game doesn't really change that much. Like the combos and stuff like that don't change unless characters get reworks. In fighting games, character getting a full rework, that means a whole new iteration of the game. that doesn't mean, hey, we're gonna pull this character out of the game right now because they're broken and we're gonna re-put them in with a brand new set of normals and new special moves. Hell nah, you gotta wait for a whole new version.
No, yeah, basically. Like, and that was definitely the hurdle I had from going from Marvel 3.0 to Infinite Zero.
Because, I would imagine.
Because I even tell people, like, because when I went to the Marvel 3 locals at Houston, people were asking me, Nico, why aren't you playing Zero? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't play 0 and 3. I'm sorry, it's too different. Because it's so different that I have to hold Buster with a different button in both games. Like, I'm sorry, that's too much of a hurdle.
Yep.
That's too much. I'm sorry, that's too much. And like, and at the same time, like transitioning from 3 to Infinite, like I had Legacy 0 experience. Like I just tried to apply it as much as I could without trying to make a copy pasta of 3.
Right.
Like, there are people who've told me that Nico, you play 0, like you're 0 Marvel Infinite 0, you make that character look like Marvel 3 0. I'm like, I mean, I'm just doing as best I can. Like I'm just using the experience and Legacy knowledge that I have. And I'm sure you do the same with Chipp, where
100%.
Where you're like, because obviously Chipp is not gonna play the exact same in Strive because Strive is not built that way.
Right.
But you're gonna be like, okay, I know he has this, I know he has that. Let's see how this is changed in Strive and adjust accordingly.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I mean, I could tell you from experience that like it was extremely hard for maybe like the first few months playing Xrd Sign. Because Chipp has 5 teleports. Actually, for every button, he has a teleport.
Oh, okay.
And
there are like 5 buttons, yeah. 5 buttons.
So he lost his back teleport, which was his slash teleport, and his slash teleport was let me see, what was it? PK? Yeah. So his slash teleport was the one that goes, the air one that goes in front, and the H one was the one that goes behind.
Yeah.
In the previous version, the H one was the one that goes in front. The D teleport was the one that goes air in behind, and the slash teleport made him go backwards. And then punch teleport actually moved him forward just slightly, and the K teleport's the same. So I had to completely stop pressing. I had to go 2-2. Oh, stop pressing dust. Oh, I hit sweep. Oops. I need to hit the H button. I
can only imagine how much of a mental hurdle that was.
And trying to adjust to a completely new system for him, oh man, it's the greatest challenge. Because he has, I always said if he had FRC Gamma Blade, oh man, he'd be so good. And he has YRC Gamma Blade, which is the exact thing that I wanted. So I'm just like, I'm just abusing the hell out of this. And even then, still having to readjust to like his 6P or 4 punch anti-air, it's not the same. A lot of people would always tell me, oh, it's just like old Guilty Gear. Like, it's not the same.
No.
Visually, it looks arguably the same-ish, but the hitbox is different, it's very, very different.
Yeah, those optical illusions.
Yeah, right. So, again, you guys, accepting this is different. Accepting I lost the teleport. Acknowledging I have to play differently. And even going into, like, Strive, it's just like, when people ask me on my stream to go back and like, hey, why don't you play, whenever I play, like, say for example, plus R, right? I'll play plus R and they're like, why don't you play Chipp? I'm like, I'm not messing up my muscle memory is too far gone from this game now. Like, I tried playing him, and then I think a week or two later I played him in Revelator 2 because someone wanted to play some online matches. Oh lord, dude, it was like teleport, sweet. Alright, I'm not doing this anymore. I can't. It's very frustrating, you guys. So that's another thing. Going backwards and playing a retro version of your character, or advancing with your character, you're gonna have to accept and acknowledge that like it's not gonna be the same. No. Like maybe some general legacy knowledge in terms of strategy. Maybe the strategy will probably still somewhat be there, right?
Yes.
But it's just the execution. Yeah. The execution is just different, and just what your objectives are different, despite having some, because a lot of times when you have legacy character knowledge, you tend to have like a baseline strategy, like, all right, these tools are in check, okay, this like this still works this way, that still works that way, okay, cool, we can kind of work off of this and like work him into the new system, because I'm sure it's exactly what you did with Zero, because I know like you had a lot of like, I'm sure you had a lot of work to go through, because especially with Marvel Infinite was like a 4 button, like a four attack buttons.
Punch, light punch, heavy punch, light kick, heavy kick.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of holding and Marvel 3 was LMHS, which I held L for Buster, which was a top left button, but I had to go from top left to from top left to bottom left, and I'm like okay, I have to get used to using my thumb instead of my index finger to hold Buster, which that was a whole hurdle on its own.
So see, guys, it's sometimes adjusting. It takes it's not that you can't do it. It takes time.
Yeah, exactly, and that's where like you have to accept and acknowledge that it's gonna take time, and acknowledge that you're gonna need the time. You're going to need the time, and that allows you to move forward and adjust as such.
Yep. I think one more thing I want to touch on is the absolute, and you talked about it a second ago, but I kind of want to expand on it a little bit. The hardest pill to swallow in fighting games. Why am I not learning fast enough? Why is it that I'm not getting good fast enough? Why is it the people around me are getting better so fast?
Yes.
Like, this is the hardest pill to swallow, and we touched base on it, so I want to kind of expand on it. Like, everyone just learns differently. Like, how you absorb information is different from player to player. It's super easy to get discouraged that like this guy right here is like doing so much better than me, and he just started. Some people just pick things up naturally fast, and I'll use myself for example. Like, I'm playing Apex Legends now, right? It's my secondary game. I love that game, and like my first person shooter experience is pretty low. I did play Counter-Strike, I did play some Unreal Tournament, I played a lot of the old school like shooter games, but I didn't really stick with it like that. Play like GoldenEye, like Nintendo 64, and like Perfect Dark, dicking around on 64 pads. But like, I never really took a shooter, like, I never tried to study it like I would like Guilty Gear or any other fighting game that I tried to take serious. And in doing that now, it's like, man, there's a lot of skills I gotta learn, and at the same time, and I stream my progress, you guys.
Yes.
And I don't mind streaming the progress because I want people to see that like someone who's coming from a completely different genre of games is like stepping into this genre and attempting to like do well. I don't care for an Apex tournament right now or anything like that. I want to be fundamentally sound at the game and like enjoy myself before I can take it to that level. Like say like a Twitch Rivals happens and they like pick me or something like that, then sure. But until that time, that's not even what I'm even concerned about. I acknowledge that I'm not good at this right now. And some people will probably look at it as,
Yes.
they'll some people may watch the stream and be like, haha, noob, and it's like, yeah, you get to laugh at my progress. You get to laugh at my progress because I'm sharing it with you.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I'm not good right now. I'm not the greatest right now. And
Yeah.
and that's another thing. Like when it comes to how I develop myself, like I'm content with like getting beaten up, because for me, like I'm a firm believer in this quote: we don't learn through success, we learn through failure. Like
I agree.
With me, because that's why I don't like about some people having this mentality of I have to win literally everything. I'm like, here's the thing. You can win everything, but are you truly getting better? Because one person actually said this to me, where I don't like losing because I want to get better. I'm like, okay, I can say at least 5 things that are inherently wrong with that statement. Like you're not truly learning by winning everything, and you receive less information from winning than you would from losing. Like
This is true.
like basically like winning, in a sense, like I'm not saying like it 100% does, of course, but like in a sense, like it puts a ceiling up there, while losing increases that ceiling for you.
I agree.
So that's why like let's say like you and I play Strive right now. We played like a first to 100. I lost like 100-0. Like granted, I'll be like extremely frustrated. I'll be like, I can't. I was like, I really just lost like that. I have so much to do. I have so much to do. But that's why I'm like, but you know what? This was a good learning experience. Like this shows me that like I'm not ready yet. Like I gotta hit the books. I gotta lab literally everything, and this, that, and the third. Like, and like obviously like I said, it's really complex. Like this is a very complex topic. Like not everything's gonna be textbook. There are no clear cut answers for everything. Like because we have to take into consideration how the set played out. Like let's say I was losing to a Chipp to one particular tool that Chipp has, where I'm just like, I really lost to this the entire set. Why am I not adjusting? But then that's where I'm like, but you know what? This was a good learning experience. So that's where you got to know where to draw the line, basically.
Yeah.
Like you have to know where to draw the line.
Like now, you have to. Oh yeah, go ahead.
In fact, some of my local players, like one local player, he plays X0, and he has a positive mindset. Like he has a good mindset. He has he takes everything, like he accepts all information. Like obviously, like he's not gonna accept like toxic information that's not that's not constructive. But like but there are times where I told him, I'm like, here's the thing, like you have a good mindset, however, you become too accepting of failure to the point where you miss out on the bigger picture, and you end up like not only that clouds your ability to see the bigger picture in terms of what you could be exploiting because you lost to it, but that also prevents you from progressing like you want to progress, because you become too accepting of failure to the point where you're like, okay, like I lost to this person, I accepted it, like there's not really too much I could do there, and just leave it at that, as opposed to, okay, I acknowledge that I lost, like I accept and acknowledge that I lost, and I'm going to acknowledge that I lost to this tool, so I'm gonna work to beat it, and next time, like make a goal, and this is where like acceptance and acknowledgement could help someone's mindset make some goals. Like
oh man, yes,
goal in this set, like okay, like let's, like I tell you, like okay, you lost to a Gamora player, a Gamora player approaching you with guns. Okay, so make a goal for yourself. Like I'm gonna exploit this as much as I possibly can. Like exploit this, and then just go from there. Like make goals, make some goals for yourself that are definable and measurable, if you can, of course.
Friends, are you seeing? Are for you guys watching this? Are you seeing how like, Nico just brought it back to goals? You see, all these Coffee with Kensou, I want you guys to know that these all stem off of each other, and they all work in conjunction. And there's like a slew of topics we can just go over like for days in terms of fighting games. So yeah, remember, set your goals. Setting your goals is important.
Yes.
Losing to something allows you to set a new, obtainable goal. And don't be unrealistic, because I understand like there's definitely some goals we want to see happen. I'm not saying that you shouldn't wish to win Evo or something like that, but like that's not in the foreseeable future. You wanna attack things that you can, you know, you want to be able to attack things that you can hit immediately. Like Evo is a long-term goal, and that's gonna come as you improve as a player, right?
Yes.
But like the things you can work on prior to that point to get you that dub, you know, that Evo medal, that combo breaker medal, that CEO medal, whatever, Texas Showdown medal, you know. These are the building blocks. These are the things you have to do. And again, you have to accept that this is an issue. You need to make it. You need to make this a goal. You need to attack this to the best of your ability. You know.
Yes.
And you know, you end up becoming, you know, the best player you could possibly be. And that's a big thing here with Coffee with Kensou. I want you guys to become the best players you can be. And I'm willing to get. And so I got. You know, I'm really glad Stealth hit me up about this because I think that it's good to hear it from not just from my perspective, but from someone else who's, you know, still, you're not that new in the scene anymore at this stage. You're like fairly established at this point now.
Yes. And
you know, just so you can hear it from another person's perspective, you know, it's not just me. You can hear it from people who are around me too, you know. And feel free to elaborate on that, dude. I'm in like self-righteous mode right now. So I'm
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, to anyone watching, like, you can, like, my DMs are open. You can always come ask me questions, and I'll assist you to the best of my ability.
Yeah, guys, it's all down here. You can go check him out. I'll put it down in the description. You know, feel free to hit him up. You know, hit me up. You know, it's all about right now for me in particular. And I said this on my stream before. You know, Nico, you've heard me say it too. It's like you know, for Guilty Gear Strive in particular, just really briefly, this is a little bit off topic with you know, the acknowledgement and acceptance, but the goal here for all this stuff is to get you guys to be competent as fighting game players. And you know, one of my biggest goals is to try to get the US players as competent as Japanese players. You know, try to get you guys, you know, up to speed as fast as possible, because the more information we have out here in our player base, the stronger we can be as players, you know. And you know, we can have good matches, we can improve off each other. And you know, right now we're in a position where rollback is really good.
Yes,
and you know,
that Strive netcode too good.
Like, Strive netcode's too good.
Yeah, because I played a lot of matches and not a single match was laggy, like, at all. Like, all my matches were good, and even like a good amount of matches that were going like around like anywhere between like 40 to 60 ms, and they were still like offline matches.
Yep.
Like, they were really good.
So, you know, I'm just trying to help you guys build like a good mindset and be able to just find the ways to improve, because like a lot of these things, they're not so I'm not necessarily want to cut dry, but they're not readily apparent to you.
Yeah,
you know?
They're not going to be as clear to you as the person next to you.
Yeah, exactly. And for what it's worth, I feel like these kinds of topics are not hit on enough in fighting games.
I agree, they're not.
So I'm doing my best to touch base with these things and not just give you guys like the generalized, you know, go practice your B&Bs and da-da-da. That's general stuff that you can kind of like, you can just siphon from anywhere on Twitter.
Yeah, like it's self-explanatory. And speaking of Twitter, that's like, I feel like an acknowledgement. Like, I acknowledge that certain tech will be useful to me, as opposed to like, of course, I'm not going to like, I'm not really dismissive unless something is like extremely out there. Like if someone gives me advice, or if I see a certain Twitter tech with, like, let's say with Anji, I'm like, oh, this is really cool, but I don't think it's the best thing to go for. But I'll keep that in the back of my mind. One of those things.
That's the thing to look at too.
Yeah, knowing when, like not be so dismissive, like acknowledge it as opposed to just dismissing it.
Yeah, because people post cool tech all the time. Sometimes the cool tech's just a thing you do just to show off a little bit. You know, it's not like it's not truly like high. I don't want to say high level, but it's not truly practical in a high stakes situation, if you will. I won't say it's not practical at all. It's just not practical in like, all right, it's you in grand finals, and it's like that cool Twitter tech that will get you like 15 minutes of fame on a Twitter clip, you know, or some hi-fi clip for that matter. Yeah. Like, you could go for the hot gimmick and then lose, and then it's like, oh, he went for it and then lost, like, you know, 10k, 15k, 20k. Like, that would suck to be that guy, to be like, I use that Twitter tech from, I don't know, freaking Blue Yeti 62, and he was like, yo, this setup right here with Anji is fire, and I was practicing it, and I was waiting for just this moment at Evo in grand finals to put this out, or grand finals of this big tournament, and then you lose for it. It's like, oh my gosh, dude. Like, when you could have just did ABC Super, you did ABC Sweep and went for set play, did Wake Up Super and you lost. Like, no, you don't want to. no one to hold them, no one to fold them in regards to tech. Trust it. Sometimes it's not readily apparent. It's not apparent what's good and what's bad, but you have to, especially as a new player, you just got to try things out and see for yourself. So
yeah, I'm a huge believer in trial and error because, like I said, that's how I learn best, like trial and error. Because I'm also a firm believer in experience is the best teacher, especially when it comes to fighting games. Like I learn by playing as opposed to like just staying in the lab all day.
For sure.
And which I do consider myself a lab monster, but the difference between me and most other lab monsters is that I'll try to lab stuff that's practical. I'll try to lab stuff that I know I'll use in a match, and then get field data in a match.
Makes sense. Yeah, for sure. Well, we are creeping up on an hour. This is a really good one. I'm not gonna front, but I'll leave this little end section here as like an open floor if there's any other tidbits you want to get out, anything you want to say, to the people, anything, just let it all out.
Yeah, just for me, like the main theme with this discussion is know the difference between acceptance and acknowledgement, because there are going to be some people that are going to try to accept something when they should actually be acknowledging it, and that stunts their growth. Where somebody will try to acknowledge something that they should be accepting, and they end up losing their minds as a result of trying to change something that is not within their power to change. Like, for example, like low tiers and high tiers and top tiers. Like some people who play low tiers because they want to try to make that low tier a top tier. I'm like, there are going to be some instances where it's just like, I'm sorry, like,
is what it is.
It's gonna be out of your. It's gonna be out of your hands. Like, I'm sorry. It's just not gonna happen. Like you're gonna be working. Like you're gonna be working a lot harder for a result that is gonna be very less likely to be there. I'm not gonna say it's impossible. But like it's one of those goals that's like a little too ambitious. That could be a little too ambitious.
Understood.
So like that's where like you have to accept that like this character is going to be a little this character is going to be too hard to work with, so you'd be better off picking something else. Now, of course, if you like the character, then feel free to grind it in Dragon Ball, even though everyone says he's bad. I personally don't think he's like bad like everyone says he is, but I
Which
know
character?
Zamasu.
Zamasu.
Oh, sorry, I was cutting out. Zamasu. Yeah, it was working just fine. I don't know why I'm cutting out now.
There you go.
Yeah, Zamasu, where like I know the character, like everyone says he's really bad. I personally don't think he's unplayable tier. Like I feel like my Zamasu team is good, like Kid Boo's Zamasu Trunks. But like I accept that Zamasu is low tier compared to everyone else, but I know that like Zamasu is not a bad Zamasu team.
It's not. Oh, you were cutting out.
Yeah, I don't know why I was cutting out. Oh my gosh. It was working just fine. Why is it always till the end?
It's always at the end. It's always at the end. Yeah. So know when to accept and know when to acknowledge. So that way, you're not dedicating brain power to the wrong things for the wrong reason. Yep. That's what it's about, y'all. That's what it's about, just
that's basically the extent of it for me.
Gotcha. Well, on my end, I will just simply say, always know what you're getting yourself into. Between character choices, situations, you're learning, and just no matter what it is, know the difference between accepting and acknowledging, and you will find yourself in a better headspace. And know that they do work hand in hand. You just have to decipher which is the right for the situation. And then I promise you guys, you will find yourself in a way better position as a player. And mind you, while we're talking about fighting games, it doesn't matter what game you play. It could be Apex, it could be Call of Duty, it could be League of Legends, doesn't matter. All this stuff does play a role. Life, the game of life. All this is applicable,
Yes.
Girlfriend situations, relationships, whatever. It's all this. It all plays a role. So, that being said, I think this is one of the first, and this actually went really good. I definitely thank you, Nico, for coming on. I appreciate you. So yeah.
Yeah, of course, and I appreciate you having me.
Oh, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, man. You know I support Texas. Easy.
Yes. Yes, of course.
Alright, you guys, so I'm gonna go and get up out of here. I'm not gonna tell you go play more Guilty Gear. I could tell you go play more Guilty Gear, but that's what I say at the end of every video. So instead of telling you play more Guilty Gear, let's just be prepared for Strive and get your controllers ready, get your sticks ready, get your pads ready, get everything ready, because come June, it's gonna be go time, alright? So until then, you guys.
Yep, yeah, it comes out on the 11th, which is on my birthday, so...
Oh, that's your birthday?
Happy birthday to me.
Oh!
Yeah, June 11th, that's when it comes out.
I didn't know that was on your birthday. Oh man, it's all in the story. Hold on. Let me go ahead and end this video right quick. Hold on. Alright, you guys. Let me get up out of here. Y'all take care, man.
Alright, you do. Yeah, y'all take care. Thank you very much.